Ford led me out the room. He opened the door to a Toy Story-themed room. The walls were a light blue color, with small yellow stars scattered around. There was a toy box overfilled with cars, Legos, balls, and other toys. The floor was surprisingly not covered in toys. His bed was made, showing off the Toy Story bed covers. Ford let go of my hand and pulled the covers up. He slid onto the small bed and got comfortable. He pulled his arms out from under the blanket and motioned for me to come closer. I started walking while he scooted over. He patted the side of the bed for me to sit. "Can you tell me a story?" Ford asked. I nodded and recalled a story my mom used to tell me. A very long time ago, there was a mean alpha. He wasn't a good leader, but then he met his mate. She was scared of him. He changed just for her. The alpha was nicer, and his pack got stronger. The power of mates and the power of love helped him. I told the gist of the story. Obviously, I am the worst storyteller ever. However, Ford still let out a yawn. I got up and started tucking him in. "Did Anna help you?" Ford asked sleepily. "Yeah, she did. I wasn't very nice when I met her," I admitted, "but I'm changing." "For her?" Califully. "Do you love her?" Ford asked. Before I could answer, his eyes started to close and his breathing steadied as he fell asleep. I stood in his room, thinking about his question. Do I love her? I'm attracted to her. I want to protect her. I'm trying to wake her up by being here. But love? I shook the thoughts out of my head and headed back to my mate. I walked in and noticed that Alyssa already left. I sat on the chair by Annabelle's bed and held her hand. I stared at her pale body and began to cry. "I'm so sorry," I sobbed. I apologized over and over again. "This is all my fault, and I will never forget it." I kissed her hand. "Please wake up. I'll make it better. I'll fix this. Just wake up," I pleaded. Her heart rate was constant, never faltering as I talked. She never moved. Not one twitch. I can't help but think about her never waking up. She could die from this, and it will be my fault. My mate's death would be on my conscience. Chapter 11. Jonathan's POV. It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since I had that fight with Anna. 2 weeks since I found out she's a royal. 2 weeks of her being in a coma. And honestly, I'm scared. She hasn't been getting any better. If anything, she's gotten worse. A few days ago, she had a seizure. I was talking to her. Then her heart stopped beating. I called for help and the doctor came in. He was about to start CPR when her heart monitor went crazy. Her body started shaking. It scared me so much. It was like a scene out of some movie where someone gets possessed or something. She was just shaking. Other than that, she hasn't moved. She's still pale. I haven't seen her beautiful blue eyes in 2 weeks. And the last time I saw them, they were filled with hate. Hate that was pointed at me. Every day since I got here, I apologized to my mate. I begged her to wake up. I cried. Me, the alpha of the Sunset Guardian pack, cried. I just need her to wake up. I need her to tell me that she's all right. That I have a chance to fix this. That I have a chance to be a better mate. Everyone comes in every day. Alyssa and Elliot will visit her. Alyssa seems to like me, and Elliot is slowly warming up to me. Ford always comes in after he wakes up and before he goes to bed. Unsurprisingly, Thomas visits. I leave the room whenever someone new comes in. I know that they need privacy. Even if it's an unmated male, like Thomas, he knows that I rejected her, and he is technically her boyfriend. It's no surprise that he doesn't like me, but the feeling is mutual. I woke up when I heard the door open. Ford walked into the room. He and I have actually gotten along pretty well. I learned stuff about him, and he learned stuff about me. Ford even told me some stories about Anna, and he told me to stop calling her Annabelle. Apparently, she likes people calling her Anna. Her parents rarely called her Anna, but I tried to avoid the topic of parents while talking to Ford. He thinks that his parents are on a trip. I couldn't tell a 6-year-old kid that his parents got murdered. Whether he knows or not is up to Annabelle. "Hi, Jonah," Ford said as I picked him up off the floor. I smiled at the nickname. "Hey, kiddo," I said. "How'd you sleep?" I asked. He glanced at his sister's skinny, pale body. "It happened again," he said sadly. Ever since Anna had a seizure, Ford has been getting nightmares. Some would be at a funeral. Others would be of seeing her die. It's too much for a 6-year-old to experience. I'm not even sure he understands his dreams. It's gonna be okay. She's gonna get better, I said, trying to convince myself as well as Ford. He started playing with Anna's blanket. Auntie Alyssa said that Uncle Keith and Auntie Aurora are visiting. Ford changed the subject. Who's Uncle Keith? I asked. Smiled. Mommy's brother. Auntie Alyssa said that him and Auntie Aurora are going to be king and queen while Mommy and Daddy are gone. Ford explained. Really? Ford nodded. When are they coming? I inquired. Tonight. Auntie Alyssa said at dinner time. Ford answered. Can you do me a favor then? I asked. Ford nodded his head, and his blonde hair bounced up and down. Can you take a bath and clean your room? But that's two things. He held up 2 fingers and waved them in my face. You said a favor, smartass. Fine. Do me 2 favors then, I said, showing him 2 fingers. Ford sighed and nodded. You owe me big time, he mumbled. I chuckled as he walked out the room. I looked at Anna. Good morning. Wait, I glanced at the clock that said 12,013. Or good afternoon, I said and kissed her forehead. I guess I'm meeting your uncle today. I nervously laughed. I should get ready. I'll see you later, I said and walked out the room. I always try talking to her as if she wasn't in a coma. It made things less saddening. Alyssa and Elliot set me up with a guest room. Not that I use it or anything. That's just where I change and keep my stuff. I sleep in the chair by Anna's bed. I walked into the room and grabbed a fluffy towel. I took a quick shower and looked for clothes. I settled on a blue-gray button-up and black jeans. I tucked in the shirt and put on my black belt. I walked out the room and towards Anna's room. Not her bedroom, just the hospital room. I walked in and saw someone sobbing by Anna's bedside. Alyssa? I asked. Her head snapped up to me and she quickly wiped her tears with the back of her hands. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll be outside. I started closing the door when Alyssa stopped me. No, she said. Alyssa motioned for me to come in. I slowly made my way to my usual seat and sat down. You don't have to be sorry. And you didn't interrupt anything. I'm just an emotional wreck. She gave me a sheepish smile. Well, you are pregnant, I pointed out. Her mouth twitched upwards. What are you naming her? I asked. Ford told me that his cousin is going to be a girl. He's smart for a little boy. Claire, she answered. Her tone said that the name had some importance. But I didn't ask. Beautiful name, I complimented. Alyssa nodded. It was the Queen's. She was supposed to be the godmother. I was right. A few tears streamed down her face. I felt the need to keep her mind off of her friend. When's she due? I inquired. In 2 weeks. She rubbed her belly and smiled. What are you all dressed up for? She questioned when she looked up at me. I'm meeting my mate's uncle, who may or may not want to kill me. I nervously rubbed my neck. Alyssa laughed so hard, tears began to fall from her eyes. She suddenly stopped. What's wrong? I asked as I rushed up to her. Her face broke out into a smile. She's kicking, Alyssa said as she held her stomach. She grabbed one of my hands and placed it on her stomach. I felt a small movement, like someone poked my hand. Wow! I breathed out in awe. I pulled my hand away from her stomach. That's amazing, I said honestly. She nodded in agreement before she started laughing again. Why do you keep laughing? I questioned. She let out one last giggle before answering. You're afraid of Keith wanting to hurt you? She asked in complete disbelief. I nodded. Whenever I dated someone, their fathers and uncles threatened me. Like a lot, I admitted. I didn't date that many people, but the few girls I did date had very protective male relatives. Don't worry about Keith. I think you can take him, she smirked. I felt like I was missing part of a story, but I didn't ask about it. Alyssa left a while after Ford came in. Now him and I were sitting down and playing cards. Do you have a 5? I questioned. Ford shook his head. Liar. Go fish, he said. There wasn't even cards left. There was just my card and his card. So they had to be a pair. I played along and dramatically sighed. Do you have a 5? Ford asked. I faked a pout as I handed him my card. That's not fair. You cheated, I exclaimed childishly. Did not, he argued. Did too. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, yes, no, yay. Is someone being a sore loser? An unknown voice asked. I got up and pushed Ford behind me. I went into a fighting position and growled at the man in front of me. He looked in his early 30s with dark blonde hair. He was short than me, but he didn't look taken back by my growl. He looked completely calm. "Uncle Keith," Ford exclaimed and ran around me. He jumped on the man, who easily caught him. "Hey, Ford," the man said. "Who's your friend?" He nodded to me. Ford started bouncing in the man's arms. "That's Jonathan. He's Anna's mate. Jonah. This is Uncle Keith," Ford shouted. I chuckled and walked towards the pair. I held my hand out for Keith to shake. "Alpha Jonathan White of the Sunset Guardian Pack, sir," I introduced myself. "I'm Keith. Don't call me sir. I sound old," he chuckled. I nodded. "So, you're Anna's mate?" "Yes, I am," I confirmed. "You better be treating her well, or else I'll stick your tail up your—" "Keith!" a woman's voice scolded. A short woman walked around Keith and smiled at me. "I'm so sorry about my mate." "Don't worry. He's just talk?" she laughed. "I'm Aurora, Auntie Aurora?" Ford questioned. She nodded. "What happened to your hair?" "It's short?" Aurora laughed as she grabbed him from Keith's arms. "'Cause I cut it," she stated as Ford reached out to touch the ends of her hair. Ford nodded. "Want to see my room?" "I cleaned it all by myself," Ford stated proudly. Aurora nodded and they left the room. Keith walked towards my mate and froze. "I didn't know she was this bad," he breathed out. "Yeah," I said quietly. He grabbed Anna's hand and rubbed it. "She's healing, right?" he asked. I didn't respond. "She's getting better?" After another moment of silence, Keith spoke again. "What are her chances?" Sighed. "Her wolf is weak. She can't help Anna heal," I explained. He frowned. "So, what does that mean?" "There is no way of telling if she'll survive this," I whispered softly. Keith nodded. I stayed silent while it all soaked in. He pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat down. "Hey, Anna. It's Uncle Isaac. I'm here? Should I go?" I asked. Keith shook his head. "You're her mate. You can stay," he said. I nodded and slowly sat on a chair. "Wake up, Anna. Please, you can't leave yet. You have a mate. You have Thomas." I let out a low growl at the mention of him. "Sorry," I apologized when Keith looked at me. He raised a questioning eyebrow. "I'm a very jealous alpha," I admitted. Keith laughed. "Jealous? Of Thomas?" he asked. I nodded. "Thomas?" he asked. I nodded again. "Why would you be jealous of—" "Oh!" he exclaimed before he laughed harder. He looked at my mate. "He thinks you're dating Thomas," he chuckled. "Wait, she's not?" I asked. Keith shook his head. "But he called her babe," I stated. "Yeah, and she calls him Coco." Keith laughed. "They have been best friends since they were in diapers. Nothing less, nothing more. I can assure you of that." That asshole actually made me believe that they were dating. Well, I guess I kinda deserved it. I really deserved it, actually. Keith turned serious and looked at my mate. "You need to wake up. Your mate looks crazy," he said with a light laugh. What are you talking about?" I asked. "Have you looked in a mirror?" Keith asked. I shook my head, causing him to chuckle. "You obviously haven't been sleeping a whole 9 hours. And you didn't shave." I childishly crossed my arms and frowned. Ford might be rubbing off on me a little. Keith ignored me and continued to talk to Anna. "This guy is crazy. Anyways, you need to wake up. I know that you lost your parents, but you still have people here that need you. The werewolves need a queen. Your friends need you. Your mate needs you. Ford needs you." At the mention of her brother, Anna's heart rate went up, then back down. I stared at her wide-eyed. "Anna, can you hear me?" I asked. No response. It had to be something that Keith said. "Keep talking about Ford," I demanded. Keith nodded. "You're the only family that Ford has left." Her heartbeat went up again. I smiled at my mate. "He's gonna need you when he gets older, to tell him about your parents." Her heart rate increased, but it was too high. Something wasn't right. "Doctor," I shouted. "Crap," I exclaimed. "The doctor leaves at 5, I stated. "And it's 6:30, Keith shouted. I nodded. Then the beeping slowed. Her heart rate was higher than before, but it was still at a constant 90 beats per minute. "We should get someone to check her." I nodded in agreement and we began to walk out the room. Then I heard it. I finally heard it after 2 weeks. Her voice. Her sweet, angelic voice. Uncle Keith? Chapter 12. Annabelle's POV. I woke up and my eyelids felt heavy. I used all my strength to open them, but it was like something was weighing it down. I tried moving my arm to my face, but it wouldn't move. What the hell is happening to me? All I remember is being at the Sunset Guardian pack. Then me and Jonathan got in a fight. After that, Elliot came in. The memories hit me all at once. The attack, my parents. The last thing I did was scream. I felt my body uncontrollably thrash around. I tried to stay still, but my body shook harder and faster. Everything was in pain. It felt like someone was pouring a bucket of hot water on me, like it was burning me. Doctor, someone get the doctor, a voice shouted. I felt hands on my body. They held me down, but my body was still twitching and I couldn't see anything. Hold her still, a voice demanded. The hands tightened on my wrists and something held down my legs. It felt like they had their legs on mine while they gripped my arms. I felt a sharp pain in my neck. Then I stopped shaking. I felt calm, like I was on the verge of sleeping, but I felt wide awake. My body was sleeping, but my brain was still going crazy. I felt the person who was restraining me loosen their grip. Everything was still dark. I slowly fell into a peaceful sleep. I woke up when something wet hit my hand. I felt fully rested and refreshed. I tried to open my eyes, but the darkness still wouldn't go away. Like my eyes were glued shut. Drips of a liquid hit my hand. It felt like raindrops. I heard a sob and hiccups. Someone was crying. Baby, please wake up. Alyssa's voice filled my ears. We need you. Please, just open your eyes. Her voice broke at the end. I wanted nothing more than to open my eyes and hug the woman that was like family. I need you to help me paint the nursery. I was always indecisive about these things. Elliot's no help. I need a girl's opinion. I need your mom. More teardrops hit my arm. Alyssa pressed her forehead to my hand and sobbed. I just wanted to wake up and comfort her. I hate hearing her in all this pain and not being able to do anything about it. Alyssa? A voice said. I swear, that sounds exactly like Jonathan. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll be outside. That's definitely Jonathan. Alyssa sniffled and she said something to Jonathan that I couldn't quite make out. Jonathan commented on her being pregnant and asked what she'll name the baby. Eleanor? I wanted so badly to just answer for her, to say anything, to do anything, but nothing worked. I was shocked at Alyssa's answer. Claire, my mother's name. I felt the darkness start to take over my mind, and I fought it. I suddenly got extremely exhausted and just let it take over. You need to wake up. Your mate looks crazy, a familiar voice said. It can't be him. He's in England. Why would my mom's brother be here? I heard a scoff. What are you talking about? Jonathan asked. Have you looked in a mirror? The voice asked. I heard my mother's brother chuckle. You obviously haven't been sleeping a whole 9 hours. And you didn't shave. This guy is crazy. Anyways, you need to wake up. I know that you lost your parents, but you still have people here that need you. The werewolves need a queen. Your friends need you. Your mate needs you. Ford needs you, Uncle Keith said softly. I suddenly got a burst of energy. Anna, can you hear me? Jonathan asked. I wanted to respond, but the energy was gone. Keep talking about Ford, Jonathan demanded. You're the only family that Ford has left. There's the energy again. He's gonna need you when he gets older. To tell him about your parents? I got more energy. It was like electricity going through me. Need to help Fords. I faintly heard Mia mumble. Doctor, Jonathan shouted. Crap, he cursed. I heard his voice and my uncle's voice talking. You need to calm down, Mia begged me. I focused on steadying my heart that was going crazy. Thank you, she said in a stronger voice. Mia, what's happening? I asked. I'm not sure. Jonathan's wolf helped heal me. You should be able to open your eyes now, Mia said. I opened my eyes and was blinded by a bright light. I blinked rapidly until my eyes adjusted. I looked around and saw Jonathan walking out. There was a man next to him with a hair full of familiar dark blonde hair. Uncle Keith? I called out. They both turned around and rushed up to me. My uncle wrapped his arms around me. I tried to hug him back, but there were red and black wires hooked up to me and an IV in my hand. You scared me, Uncle Keith admitted. Sniffling, I pulled away from him. What are you doing here? I asked, wiping tears from my eyes. Uncle Keith scratched the back of his neck. Do you remember what happened? He asked hesitantly. I frowned and nodded. When you didn't wake up, there needed to be temporary rulers. I was just out for a few days, I said. Uncle Keith looked at me in confusion. Anna, he said softly, you've been out for 2 weeks? 2 weeks. I felt my heart speed up, and Uncle Keith was yanked away from me. Jonathan stood next to me and tried touching me, but I flinched away. Why are you here? I spit out. He looked hurt by my words. I'm here because my mate was hurt, he stated. He freaking rejected me. Jonah. Your mate? I laughed bitterly. We are not mates. What? Uncle Keith exclaimed. Who the hell are you then? He yelled. She's just confused. We are Ma. I am not confused, I shouted. My heart rate sped up with every word. You rejected me, I hissed. Uncle Keith pinned Jonathan to the wall. It looked slightly amusing since Uncle Keith is shorter. I would laugh if I wasn't pissed off by Jonathan's presence. You rejected my niece. His voice boomed, probably echoing through the whole castle. Jonathan growled, making my uncle release him. Alpha pert. Lucky bastard. He took a step closer to the bed, but I moved as far as the wires would allow me to. He was pained by the action and stopped moving. Can you give us a minute? Jonathan asked. 60 seconds start when I walk out that door, Uncle Keith said. I looked at him and begged him with my eyes not to leave me. He shot me an apologetic smile and walked out the room. Traitor. Anna, Jonathan trailed off. You have 50 more seconds, I warned him. Don't be like that, he begged. I avoided looking at him and started playing with the blanket. Please. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I should have never rejected you. Well, why the hell did he? 40 seconds. I shouldn't have slept with Gabriella. I know that. I know that I hurt you. I regret it more than anything in the world, he said in a strained voice. 30. Would you stop that? Jonathan shouted. Naturally, I whimpered. No, Anna. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scream, he apologized. Stupid mate bond, making me all sad because Jonah is mad. 25, I choked out while looking at the wall. Maybe if I don't look at him, I won't feel like this. Anna, just look at me, Jonathan begged. I shook my head and tightly shut my eyes. I'm sorry, Jonathan said before turning around. I opened my eyes in time to see him walking out. Uncle Keith nodded at him and entered the room. He still had 17 seconds, Uncle Keith said, trying to lighten the mood. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I started bawling. All the hurt came out. From the rejection. From the redhead, Gabriella. From my parents. In the 2 days, my world came crashing down. My mate hurt me, my parents died, and I went into a coma. Uncle Keith rocked me back and forth while I cried. He slowly released me when the door opened. Instantly, Alyssa and Elliot rushed over to me. Thank God you're okay. Alyssa hugged me and cried on my shoulder. Elliot kissed my head. Welcome back to the living, kid, he said. Anna? Ford's soft voice rang through my ears. I heard tiny footsteps. Then Ford jumped on my bed. Anna! He cried and wrapped his arms around my neck. Tears of joy spilled out of my eyes. We'll give you some space, Uncle Keith said. The 3 adults walked out, leaving me with my brother. Hey, Squirt, I said and smothered him in kisses. He wiped everywhere I kissed, causing a pout to appear on my face. Ford chuckled and kissed my cheek, causing me to grin. He did it, Ford said in awe. Who? I looked at him in confusion. What are you talking about? Ford mindlessly played with my fingers. Jonah did it, he smiled. Jonah? As in Jonathan? My ex-mate? I raised an eyebrow at my brother. He saved you? Chapter 13. Annabelle's POV. I stared at my brother in confusion. What do you mean? I asked. He promised that he will make you better. Ford grinned. And you are awake now. He squeezed my waist. I smiled, but was still curious. So, you've been talking to my mate? I questioned. Ford nodded with a smile on his face. He is nice. I like him, he said happily. Do Mommy and Daddy know that he is staying here? My heart dropped at the mention of my parents. I wonder what they told him. I don't know. I've been asleep, remember? Said. Did Auntie Alyssa tell you what happened? Ford asked. I shook my head. Mommy and Daddy went on a vacation. I've been staying with Auntie Alyssa and Uncle Elliot, but she cries a lot. Uncle Elliot said it's because she has a baby girl in her tummy. Ford rambled. He started telling me about what he did while I was sick. Apparently, he and my mate are best friends. The thought pains me. The last of my immediate family is best friends with Jonah, but I'm thankful that he kept Ford company. He was probably lonely while I was out. What's all this? Ford asked, tugging on the wires. I actually don't know. I shrugged and started to pull them off. The machine started beeping, and Ford started screaming to make it stop. I covered my own ears. Why is it so loud? The royal doctor rushed in with Alyssa, Keith, and Elliot behind him. They all frantically looked around until their eyes landed on me. Everyone visibly relaxed, and the doctor shut off the machine. Ford whimpered in my arms, clutching his ears. Ford? I lifted his head to look at me. How about we go play a game? Ford started nodding his head and climbed off the bed. I just need to talk to Alyssa, Elliot, and Keith. You can go set it up. He nodded his head, causing his blonde locks to bounce up and down. He walked out the room with the doctor, and the adults sat down. We should talk about you parents, Alyssa suggested. I gave her a look signaling that I didn't want to talk about them yet. Or something else, she said with a nervous chuckle. What happened? I asked, still unsure of how I got in a coma. Uncle Keith and I both waited for someone to answer. We just heard you scream. It started out as a scream of frustration. Then it was like a howl of pee-pee pain. Alyssa's voice cracked. Elliot shushed her. With his arms wrapped around his mate, he spoke. You fainted, and we took you to the doctor. We tried to talk to you. We tried everything. The doctor said that nothing was wrong with you, but with your wolf. Elliot explained. So that's why I was in a coma? I asked. The adults all nodded. Why is Jonathan here? I asked hesitantly. I didn't tell anyone about him being my mate. Thomas called him, Keith said with a chuckle. I raised an eyebrow. Your mate was very jealous. Too, I scoffed and rolled my eyes. Ex-mate, I said, putting emphasis on the X. Elliot stiffened and Alyssa gasped. Ex? Elliot growled. He rejected me before he even knew my name, I said, with a few tears streaming down my face. I wiped them away, letting go of the sorrow and having anger fill me. What? Are you sure? Alyssa asked. How could I not be sure? Instead of being a smartass, I repeated his exact words. Yeah, he said, I, Alpha Jonathan White, reject you as my mates. I mocked in a deep voice. I'm gonna kill him, Elliot growled. I'll hide the body, Keith said. Alyssa smacked Elliot's arm. No one is killing anybody, or hiding any bodies. She glared at Keith. You both have seen Jonathan these past 2 weeks. He's been looking like shit ever since he got here. I still don't understand why he was here in the first place, I shouted. Mates give each other strength. With him near you, I figured it would help your wolf, Thomas said from the doorway. I shot up and wrapped my arms around his waist. He hugged me tightly and inhaled my scent. You scared me. I'm sorry, it's just. All of this has taken a toll on me and my wolf, I responded. He nodded in understanding. Then, I remembered what we were talking about and pulled away from Thomas. You called him, I shouted. Look, I was just trying to help. And it worked, Thomas argued. I slumped on my bed, defeated. As much as I hate to admit it, Jonathan did help me in a way. Being here allowed his wolf to help mine. He left, by the way. I sighed. I knew he wasn't gonna stay. He still has the redhead. I couldn't help but be slightly disappointed. Gee, good? I stuttered. What's wrong? I gave him a look. He freaking left me for the redhead werewolf. Thomas looked confused. Then he laughed. You have that alpha wrapped around your finger. He barely left your side, he informed me. Really? He never left? I asked. Thomas nodded. He only left when one of us came in. To give us privacy or whatever. He slept in that chair. Thomas pointed at the chair by my bed. Really? I turned to Alyssa, who nodded in confirmation. He didn't leave. He didn't leave. What about his pack? He left Daniel in charge, Elliot said with a shrug. You know, Alyssa started. He really cares about you, I scoffed. Yeah, And Ford loves carrots, I said sarcastically. Oh my God, Ford, I shouted. I was supposed to play with him. He's fine. He's taking a nap, Thomas informed me. Sighed. He doesn't know, does he? I questioned, even though I already knew the answer. Everyone shook their heads. I bent over and held my head in my hands. What am I gonna do? I asked aloud. Well, you're gonna have to tell him eventually. Better sooner than later, right? Thomas said. I groaned. How do you even tell a kid that his parents are dead? That some wolves ripped them limb by limb? A.H. I shouted as the burning pain spread around my body. It was stronger than before. The burning feeling increased around my whole body. Like when you get splashed with hot oil while cooking. Only, it was like oil was being splashed around inside of me, and I couldn't get away from it. I screamed in agony. I rolled into a fetus position and screamed. I closed my eyes to see the redhead again. Kissing Jonathan, I let out a miserable howl as the pain faded. Panting, I opened my eyes to see Elliot, Thomas, Alyssa, and Keith watching me. They all had concerned looks on their faces, except Thomas. He was pissed. Jonathan, Thomas growled. I nodded. He left just so he could whore around with that redhead. How dare he put you through that pain again? He shouted as his eyes flashed golden. I have a feeling that his stance on Jonah's and my relationship changed. Again? This happened before? Elliot asked. I nodded. You have some explaining to do. I sighed and told them everything. Chapter 14. Annabelle's POV. Elliot growled, interrupting me for the 28th time. He said it was your fault. Elliot shouted. I just told them about the fight with Jonah. I reluctantly nodded. I knew that Elliot's wolf was surfacing. It's true, though. If I accepted the rejection, then none of this would have happened, I said. If you accepted the rejection, then you might not be here right now. Jonathan wouldn't come here. You would have died on that hospital bed, Thomas said. I sighed, knowing that what he said is probably true. What happened next? Alyssa asked. She has been silent this whole time, most likely processing everything. Alyssa will take her time analyzing every detail. She will also try to see it in his point of view. I decided to ask her what she thought about the whole situation when we were finished. Nothing really. Elliot came in and told us about the attack. I finished with a shrug. I never want to see him near my niece again. Keith shouted, his eyes flashing golden. It was obvious that all the men were fighting their wolves for control. Elliot looked scarier than Jason, the dude with the hockey mask and chainsaw. Keith looked kind of funny. Since he's so little, it's funny to see him angry. Thomas knew everything already, so he was normal. And Alyssa seemed surprisingly calm. Considering that she's pregnant, I thought Alyssa would be more angry. I thought wrong. I never want to see him anywhere. If he comes in my territory, Elliot growled, then continued, I'll rip off his tail with my teeth, shove in through his left ear, and pull it out the other ear. I shuddered at the visual. That's unpleasant. Laughter erupted through the room until everyone froze. Their eyes were unfocused, telling me that they were communicating in the mind link. Keith angrily growled, the noise echoing in my ears. We'll be back, Keith announced as he stood up with Thomas and Elliot. They silently walked out the room, leaving me alone with Alyssa. What was that about? I questioned. Alyssa plastered a smile over her frown. Nothing. She obviously lied. I didn't feel like pressing on the subject, so I just nodded. About Jonathan, Alyssa started. What are you thinking? I asked. Her thoughts on the subject of my mate were very important to me. I knew that she would be more level-headed than the guys. She took a moment to gather her thoughts. I sat on the hospital bed in silence. For once, I don't think you guys as mates was a good idea, she said. I nodded for her to continue. I think he's a bad mate. Honestly, I agree with Keith and Elliot. He should never come back here. Really? I questioned. Alyssa nodded without hesitation. Why? I asked. Alyssa and Elliot have always been rooting for mates. That mates needed to be together. Why not now? I tried to see it from his view, but I just can't think of any reason for someone to do that. He stayed with you while you were in the coma, but that's all he did. He just sat in the chair next to you. Like for moral support, Alyssa explained. I listened intently, hanging on to every word. The way he rejected you, how he slept with that girl, what he said to you. None of that is him being a good mate. And he left your side to go back to that girl when he knew that it physically pains you when he's with her. Tears began to gather in my eyes. Alyssa paused and took a deep breath. I've looked for some excuse, an explanation, anything, but there's nothing that could have made him treat you like that. There's no reason for him putting you through that pain, Alyssa said softly. I let out a sob, and my tears rolled down my cheeks. Alyssa whispered soothing words in my ears and rocked us back and forth while I cried. I was surrounded by her scent, and I found myself inhaling it for comfort. When my sobs died down and my tears dried, I pulled away from Alyssa's warm embrace. Thank you, I said sincerely. For what? Alyssa asked. For being here? For what you said? I took a deep breath and continued. Without my mom here, I wouldn't know what to do. So, thank you, I said as I wrapped my arms around her round baby belly. You're welcome, Alyssa said and kissed my head. I pulled away from her once again. I wiped my tears and chuckled. This is too emotional, I joked. Alyssa laughed and wiped the few tears that escaped her eyes. I'm pregnant. What's your excuse? Alyssa asked. My mate is a basta, Annabelle? Jonathan's voice echoed through the castle. I looked at Alyssa and rolled my eyes. Speaking of the devil, I mumbled. I got off the bed and walked to the door. I reached for the handle, but it was pulled open in front of me. Jonathan stood in the doorway, sweaty and panting. His hair was messy, sticking out in weird angles. We stared at each other for a second before he was yanked backwards by one of the guards. Let go of me. She's my mate. Jonathan thrashed in the guard's hold. Anna, tell this guy to let go of me, Jonathan said and stopped moving. Good evening, Princess. Scott, the guard greeted me. Do you know this young man? Scott asked. I sighed and nodded at the guard. Yes, this is Alpha Jonathan of the Sunset Guardian Pack, I explained. Scott nodded and released Jonathan. I'll be going then, Scott said, and walked off like it was casual to assault an alpha. I looked at Jonathan, who was awkwardly scratching his head.